NOLAN! Hey, it's Truth and Revelation Week. You know, the truth, the thing Hollywood hates. Well, apparently, according to DISPARU, the Odyssey reveals the truth behind its destruction. Brother, that is an excellent title. Do you give lessons? How do you come up with the titles? I don't know. Let's go.
The Odyssey marketing has taken the weird decision to make it sound worse every time they talk about it. Now, that's not to say there's not some good things. For instance, they tried to limit CGI.
There's computer graphics, there's puppetry, there's animatronics, there's false perspective, there's really everything.
And of course, we have Anne Hathaway. But for every one of these examples, there's a metric ton of how not to market a movie. For instance, what I've been enjoying this week is the intellectual wisdom of Lupita Nyong'o.
I guess when you're playing two people, you just have to do double the work.
That's about the level I would expect out of Wakanda, but it gets even better when she's talking about what's been done to Helen of Troy.
They've been done dirty, dealing with how they've been done dirty.
Because as it comes to her casting, I can't help but think that this is a cheeky little mix between ego boost and pity casting.
I felt so honored that Chris would think of me to depict this woman.
Isn't it interesting that she feels, I just noticed it, she's honored that Nolan chose her, but she's not honored to represent a character created by one of the most influential authors of history, Homer. In fact, if anything, she looks down on him.
Who was known for her beauty.
As he saw her and thought, we're going to have to make this about her personality.
And I liked bringing a three-dimensionality to someone so that she was no longer reduced to a face.
I know Nolan likes to play homage to classic cinema. That's why, for me, I structured this video in the same vein, referencing the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's not just me saying it. Global Box Office left their review of The Odyssey, where they said, on that note, Lupita Nyong'o was cast as a disfigured version of Helen of Troy.
What? Oh, goodness gracious, I didn't know that. Man, there is always more. How there is always more. This is unbelievable. I mean, to start posting 3 times a day at this pace.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Also, and at this point it isn't a secret, and any review that doesn't mention this, I wouldn't trust at all. It does comment on Nolan's screenplay is certainly not the most accurate to its source material. Red flag. And as Christopher Nolan himself has spoken about the importance of using modern English to make it more accessible for complete retard, I'm going to need you to sit back and relax so that your cortisol levels don't rise as I give you the skippity riz on this jester maxer.
How hasn't this man not being arrested in the UK is beyond me. Do you still live in the UK, or did you just bring the accent?
The thing that summarises the problems with the Odyssey is actually this tweet from Total Film. The cast of the Odyssey have thoughts about what they'd steal from the set.
I had a ring.
Those contacts that I had to wear, I like to put those in there.
Some of the costumes.
That's a good question. You steal in it, basically.
Yes, Total Film wanted to know what the cast would steal from the Odyssey, and then only ask the minorities.
No, I don't believe it. This is a simulation. Where is the button? Where is the button? No, I don't believe it. These are NPCs. These are NPCs.
I looked at these people and thought, if anyone knows about stealing, it's those. Do you think we should ask them a question about what should they nick? Yes, but only the foreigners. I mean, they're already stealing the role and the culture from the Greeks in the first place. If stealing anything else would just come naturally. I wish I had a culture so I wouldn't have to steal yours. It might be the most basic.
Which actually, the thing that annoys me the most is that they do have cultures. So they don't even need to steal, in the sense of culture vulturing, which is the most offensive thing of all. If you really sit down for a moment, put the theatrics away, and really think about it.
Question in all of interview history.
So much of what we do is to entertain and to allow people to escape reality for however many hours.
No, I like escaping reality, although this movie decides to bring London to me.
And fully immerse yourself in this case, a piece of literature from, thousands of years ago.
Would you like to feel like you've escaped to this thousand-year-old literature because we brought modernity to you?
Yeah, in fact, if anything, it's the word, oh, look, it's Homer Simpson. It's insane how it's not escapism. You can't escape reality if you fill it to the brim with modern politics. If anything, you are doing the very opposite of that. But they know it. They know it. It's so fake. Basically, if you show them this blizzard that I've just eaten from, what is it called? Dairy Queen, they're going to tell you, no, that's a burger from McDonald's. It's literally, they say anything they want. They always say the opposite of reality.
You like that, don't you? Everybody's happy with modernity.
Boys, that's Nike boys hopping our coast.
Greek history, now with built-in degradation. Miss Travis Scott will apparently be doing a rap over the end credits,
of course.
just to really immerse you in...
He's also the first voice you're going to hear. He's the first... He's
the Greek culture as you're leaving the cinema. My favourite part of it is Christopher Nolan might have even contributed to the lyrics himself. I just really wish I was a fly on the wall of the music studio though, as Christopher Nolan was sitting there, dropping N-bombs and rapping about his hose.
A lot of the way people look at the ancient world or the classical world in movies and in culture.
Well, not with the odd ha, though. Luckily for him, he's got a non-rhotic accent, so he can finish it with the ah.
Is to sort of project their own fantasies onto it. And
I love how Christopher Nolan only ever talks about himself. He doesn't realise this at all.
Project their own fantasies onto it.
Fantasies like, this is a Greek warrior, or she's the most attractive woman in the world.
And to keep it at a remove.
Do you not understand, Christopher? It is far removed. About 2,800 years far removed.
Exactly. This is them, not me.
That's correct, Mr. Interviewer. It's everybody else who is wrong. This is clearly the man that understands Greek culture, I can tell. But he goes on to talk about how it's passed down as poetry. Although I wouldn't be surprised if you went to the Odyssey and saw a printing press.
So the idea that bards have just, riffed on this and kind of, freestyle it and everything.
They didn't riff on it by freestyling. Although, yes, I'm sure over 2,800 years it's altered a bit because people's memories aren't perfect. It also probably passed through a lot of people's obviously inherent bigotry. Like, some people will think, we need John Leguizamo in it. And what this story is really missing is a Kenyan. So there will be some people over the course of those 2,800 years who don't care about the story.
Did you say Kenyan? Congolese. Come on, man. I'm expecting accuracy here. It's Helen of Congo.
And just want to destroy it. I agree with you.
But they'll always talk about, Yugoslav folk poets. They don't look at rap. They don't look at a guy like Travis Scott.
That's probably because they were looking at people of talent.
Boys, that's Nike boys hopping our coast.
No, I admit, if Travis Scott was the one who picked up the story originally 2,800 years ago, it would be a very different piece today. I'm sure it'd sound entirely different if it had to be created out of single-syllable words. I mean, anyone that could even watch this guy's interviews and think, oh my god, he's linked to the Odyssey. Well, you're either stupid or lying.
I just got a call from Nolan. He had this crazy idea, and I was like, yo, I'm down to rock, however you want to do it, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's crazy.
It's not the only time he did it either. I mean, his interviews are just a glowing soliloquy of his intellectual freestyling.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. I know it means everything. I'm excited to be here. On the big screen, this is what it's all about right here. I love movies, so I'm ready to see this.
Oh, it's incredible. It's like the spirit of a 2026 rapper is speaking through him.
Starting the first voice you hear is his telling this story. It was incredible.
To immediately immerse you in Greek culture, the first voice they chose to make you hear is Travis Scott.
Oh gosh, come on, guys. I want to just stop it. Stop it. Just stop. I don't believe it for a second that you can watch this and think, No, I think it's really good. And you're all just a bunch of bigots, MAGA. That's why. But otherwise, this is great. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. If you tell me that's what you believe, I don't believe it. I think you're just playing a part. You're an NPC. You've been programmed to say that to annoy me.
It's incredible. Impossible or very difficult to believe. For probably the first time in our lives, me and him are on the same page.
It's like, no, this is how this story...
Elliot or Helen?
Has been handed down, and we have that in our culture today. It's such an important part of the culture.
It's not important to my culture at all. But yes, it does exist today. It didn't exist 2,800 years ago. You were a guy that got rid of an orchestra, just objectively superior form of music, and then were like, what's going to get people in the mood of ancient Greece? I know, Travis Scott. It's his grill that really does it for me. When he said, dem hoes ain't loyal, that's when I knew this guy was a master of the craft. When their eyes met across a crowded room and Christopher Nolan said, man dem Greek in it blood, that's what really opened up this movie for him. Now, this is all important, not particularly because of hypocrisy, although that definitely exists.
Yes.
And I loved seeing Elliot Page. What was it like reuniting with him?
Elliot's just terrific. She just thought this was such a great part.
Oh, it would have been amazing if he mistakenly misgendered and said she. Oh, I would have loved it. I would have it would be like, cut.
A lot of the way people look at the classical world in movies and in culture is to sort of project their own fantasies onto it.
But mainly because it shows the intention reason behind the work? Why are you changing it? Who are you targeting with this? What are the reasons that motivate your changes? Because on the one hand, Christopher Nolan starts defending historical accuracy complaints, even going down to the archaeology of daggers that have been found and the chemical composition or things that you could do to metal to make this sort of blackened bronze.
Which is nonsense, because Odysseus had blackened bronze, regular bronze, so gilded bronze, that's how it's described, and copper, all three within the structure of 42 bands that his armor was. It was polychromatic, multiple metals and alloys. He just turned it all black into Batman. Even the armor was race swapped.
And how it would only be specifically for essentially rich people because it was so expensive. But then in other parts of the movie, he does not care at all. Everyone's seen the photos by now that look like really poor cosplay. And I don't just say that out of nowhere. I mean, these look worse than Willow. Now, Willow is the greatest show ever in existence, so it's never going to compete. But it once again falls into the typical television fantasy of, this could be anything. In fact, it looks more like Robin Hood. Don't even get me started on boat Twitter, because the movie was bragging that, oh, we actually had a real ship that we'd send the actors out and they'd start vomiting. To which people pointed out that this isn't a Greek boat. This is a literal 9th century Viking longship. And I can already hear the pedants now. That's not literally a 9th century Viking longship. You mean figuratively. The issue is, this is actually one of the most authentic parts of Nolan's Odyssey, and it is a Viking ship. Now, it's authentic to a completely different culture, 2,000 years too late for the piece, but it is actually authentically Viking. Built in modern times by Norway, named after their first king. And I know what you're thinking, Nolan isn't a history guy. How's he supposed to know that that's a Norwegian Viking?
No, there's no way anyone would think that.
Ship. Well, probably, because to get it to the actual movie set, they had to sail it from freaking Norway.
Like, this is killing me. What a video, this is phenomenal.
From its home port in Kopervik, there was even articles while it was filming, Viking ship moors in Inverness. It's even...
No, ancient Greek, what are they on about? Bronze Age?
Described as the world's largest Viking ship. I would love to be a BBC journalist for this one that had to write the paragraph. It is understood that the Draken Harald Hargvanger is being used as an ancient Greek warship. And if you really want to be generous, you're probably thinking, well, let's be honest, how many old, ancient, authentic vessels can there be that still float around the world? This was probably the best one they could have chosen, right? I mean, it's not as if there's a sailing reconstruction of a Mycenaean warship that already exists, the Argo. It's not like there was another pre-built ship already available he could have chosen that he specifically didn't. How many of these slights at Greek culture need to add up before we can just say it's deliberate, it's intentional,
of course
it's an obvious hatred of Greeks? Yes. How many foreign things need to pretend that they had anything to do with culture and civilization before we can just admit what you're doing? There's absolutely nothing about the work that seems like you're trying to represent the Greeks at all. You didn't go to them on the premiere. There's absolutely none of them in the cast, but you are obsessed with cramming in people who don't belong in.
And they're even shaming the ancient ones, including Homer, so it's on top of it. Yeah.
People who are just irrelevant and don't matter. And it seems to be precisely these irrelevant people which are taking the focus and everything. Now, we saw in this review earlier that it's funny about the backlash of Elliot Page's casting when the character barely appears. But that just makes it even stranger. Another wide swathe of critics have seen the movie rather than just a
Yeah, who cares that the character... It doesn't matter. It's the intention. It's the intention.
And pick shillfluencers. We have more evidence to back that up, such as this from Film Threat.
The controversial castings, it's not that big a deal because of screen time.
Right, they might as well be cameos.
Why would you want to cast someone who's going to bring such backlash for such a tiny role? Why would you try and cram them into a movie where they don't even belong? Because the character that Elliot is playing isn't even in the Odyssey. It's a character from another piece of work that has been crowbarred in here. Just
yeah, isn't it like from the Aeneid? I don't know how to pronounce it, or the Iliad. I think it was the Aeneid. It's been a while.
There's a part. It's the same with Helen of Troy. I understand that in this one, it's not about her beauty. It's about her personality. You know, the one thing that's utterly irrelevant to the story. Coupling told us why.
What do you call people you go out with, but you don't try to sleep with?
Men.
And so you are inventing justified criticism against your work that serves no purpose. You are deliberately attacking and degrading your own art, as people like to call it. It's a movie, and there has to be a reason for that. And I'm sure for some reason they think they can virtue signal about crapping on somebody else is somehow good because they deserve it or something.
You know, it's funny. To me, actually, I don't have a problem with people calling a movie art if it is artistic in nature. I would in fact, several video games, absolutely art. I don't have a problem with extending the meaning of the word art when it comes to other craftsmanships, not AI. But then again, definitely not Nolan's.
Apparently, I'm supposed to think Umbongo is important. I think if she'd been important, she would have had her own stories to tell, but here we are. And she does, in fact, think she is important in those stories.
And hopefully, there is a celebration as a result, a respect for these very wealthy and diverse cultures that often just get washed as one thing.
Which is exactly why she's not important in anyone else's. But we also saw in Variety. Moana has bombed over the last week.
Love to see it.
No one cares about this movie. The critics absolutely panned it at 33%, and yet they still found a way to praise it because it was working closely to honour Polynesian culture, their traditions, and why representation matters in live-action film. Oh, really? Because the weird thing about the cast of the Odyssey is it's not even that stacked. Most of these people aren't even big names. The best you get from most of them is, yeah, I know about you, but you're not going to bring anyone into this
zero Greek representation
cinema. Although when you arrange them in this grid form, it is like looking at a Dulux paint chart. And Josh Stewart in this picture really looks like Macaulay.
Sorry, I'm covering him.
Culkin. We might as well have had Macaulay Culkin as Odysseus at this point. But Variety come out, and even in a movie they despise, it's like, yeah, but it is good how much it actually cared about their people, their traditions. Even if it cost them the success of the movie. They thought it was really important that The Rock, when he was 8 years old, was watching Harrison Ford and went, he doesn't look like me. But this means that Asian Americans and Native Hawaiians, Pacific Islanders, are finally finding much to celebrate.
See, they care it doesn't look like you. What about the Greeks, though, when you're swapping with Lupita Nyong'o? That's the thing. It's always one-directional, motherfuckers.
They can look on the screen and go, and yet Moana, Wakanda, both made by Disney. They're not actually products of those cultures at all, are they? In fact, I can make a way better argument that I belong in Wakanda than whatever's going on with Umbongo and the Odyssey. Although I should point out, I don't want to be in Wakanda. Because the English have enough history of actually good things happening that I don't need to pretend I was in anyone else's.
500 pounds of cotton. Dang it, Lord knows that's all.
It includes aspects of their tradition, like tribal tattoos, known as a mocha, and rich expressions of history through dance, which presumably will be done to rap music. The one music that...
No, it's not, because they're not going to do that. They're not going to disrespect the Polynesian. They're not going to do it.
Brings the entire world together as everyone can admit that it's to ensure the representation was done with respect and authenticity, countless artisans, consultants, experts, advisors, and department heads worked closely with the Cultural Trust. Among those were experts such as Grant Muwega.
I swear, trust is the one thing we should never have with anything that has to do with Hollywood. Ever.
You tututi, muagoti tututu. Tiana nos onsina liu fau.
Can't help you with that, sorry, not one of my languages.
And opetiaya foa. Aye. Drawing from a cultural background, Liu Fu aimed to create movement that felt unique and authentic. She was embedding traditions over various different regions, and they wanted to make sure the entire region was represented. It was about incorporating song and dance from all of the islands.
Can you imagine the entire region, all of the islands, but for Greece they couldn't even do one major role. Incredible.
Islands, and fusing those movements effortlessly into musical numbers. All of this stuff was relevant to such a small amount of people, and yet they still want to put into all the work to make it as accurate a screen on possible. We've also seen this for Native Americans and the Japanese, and that's without even needing to look. And then you've got ancient
Japanese before, because now the Japanese are white adjacent, because they're not okay with accepting millions of Muslims in their country, so now they've become oppressors. Welcome, Japanese, you're now white.
Greece. Yes, a place far removed in time, but something which has significant impact on the modern world and modern countries, the West as a whole. Obviously, ancient Greece will be important to you if you're Greek, but it's also inseparable from sort of Western European...
Everyone, yes, all Europeans.
...culture.
And Americans, white Americans too. Americans in general, I would say. If you're American, then you belong into the Western civilization that was built upon the pillars, one of which is ancient Greece.
And any countries which sprang from that. That means that just on a scale of importance, it's far more important that you get ancient Greece correct than Polynesia. True. If Variety is jerking themselves silly over this because of the sheer virtue of it all, they should be absolutely horrified at the Odyssey. Yes. We should see article after article.
He's absolutely right. Now, when it comes to me, as long as if they did show respect to Greece and the West, then if they also show respect to Polynesia, I would be, yeah, cool, great, absolutely. It's the lack of respect for the West and Greece and Rome and all of that that really makes you then find all of those other things red flags.
Hit piece after hit piece, expert after expert coming out, all to slate the thing. And instead, no. It's got Travis Scott in it, who looks like he's auditioning for the part of Jaws and James Bond.
Boys, that's Nike boys, I've been our coast.
In fact, Variety not only didn't critique Odyssey because it was destroying the culture of the native people, instead they decided to start attacking the moral people that were defending them.
Yeah.
From the team that brought you Why is Snow White Latina? Why are there Africans in Rings of Power? Star Wars has gone woke. Comes the latest onslaught. These culture wars.
Honestly, to all the people that say anti-woke, cringe, to all those people, I'm speaking to you specifically. Can you explain to me how it's not true that Star Wars has gone woke? With the lesbian, what are they called? The acolytes, not Padawan, what's the word? Well, you know what I'm talking about. That use the Force to reproduce so they don't need no man, and they're black. You can't deny it. You cannot deny it. This is gaslighting, Variety piece of shit. This is gaslighting. Not working. The culture warriors, they say.
Warriors, been led to battle by their own personal Agamemnon. I find it interesting that he just stated all the things they defended, and at no point could justify any of the things which have happened.
Exactly.
Of course, Snow White shouldn't be from an entirely different continent. I also like their attempt to try and make the word culture warrior derogatory, simply because they're annoyed that people are actually fighting back against them. It's like...
True, but if it's someone who said, yeah, we love what you're doing, then they would be, yeah, that's good culture war, isn't it? It's not grifting when it's on the other side.
No, I just want to destroy all of society and civilization in peace.
Yeah.
No. They came out with a similar story in other tweets and kept on repeating it. Don't you know Umbongo is addressing the legitimate backlash against her because she took this part as a racist and called any legitimate defense of the destruction of the Odyssey about his troll army. They aren't just silly but wildly inaccurate because you know the only people that weren't in ancient Greece? Greek people. Umbongo reported by going, this is a mythological story. Which of course it had to be, because we had to try and pretend that she's ever achieved anything in history. They throw out these slurs, these insults, to make you go on the defensive, to make you explain yourself, so it takes you a long time to explain yourself.
True.
And once you do, they'll just throw out another random accusation at you that they don't even believe themselves.
Yes.
Thing is, you don't need to defend yourselves from these people, they're evil. You can simply step over
when this guy, you're great
for them, ignore them and attack. Why do you hate the Greek people? Why don't you think they belong in their own culture? What gives anyone the right to be in a story that they're not supposed to be in?
Preach!
They had nothing to do with, that doesn't belong to them. Make them state why they want it to happen. You don't have to defend yourself from an action that they're doing. They're the ones doing the action, they're the ones that can justify it. Now, they won't be able to because what they're doing is horrific and they know it is. They have horrible intentions and they know they do. This is why you make them justify themselves, because the one thing they care about is social virtue and status points. Now, obviously, pointing out
with the
hypocrisy of evil people is irrelevant. You can't call out somebody on principles that they don't hold. You may consider it hypocrisy, but they don't because they care about Polynesian culture and not ancient Greece. To them, it's European white culture, which means it needs to be separated out and treated
to colonize
differently. They wouldn't even consider themselves to be hypocrites. So you don't point these things out as hypocrisy. You point things out so you can actually get to the root cause, the why, the intention behind doing it and what it's hoping to achieve. To do this, we can get it from their own statements, their own priorities, what they've said is great about their own movie. And you can find bits and pieces from the cast and what they've said. For instance, Elliot Page.
Terms of looking at nature as if it's some sort of cis heteropatriarchal structure is
heteronormativity. Man, the voice is terrible.
Is absurd. This gender binary that we've created is nothing but a quaint little myth.
What Elliot is talking about there is the foundation
biology
of everything we are. If you wipe that out, you wipe out the foundation of society. If there are rules, natural
that and the core nuclear family. And Christianity.
Systems which form the foundation of everything. These were written into our texts, our stories, our genetic temperaments as people of how to behave. And that's what makes everyone work. And then there's new modern people who's like, I think we should go back and change all of that because I don't like this system. Now the answer is it doesn't matter whether you like the system. The system doesn't care about you because you're irrelevant and don't matter. But they decided to go back and change all of the things that form the foundation of society so that they can alter society. You could say it's
to sort of project their own fantasies onto it.
Looking at nature as if it's some sort of cis heteropatriarchal structure.
Whoa, the editing. You're cooking, brother.
Nothing but a quaint little myth.
When you've created an entire character to put that in your movie, yes, the statements of the actor does represent that of the greater work. I've never understood why people are like, you should separate the art from the artists. No. An artist puts himself into his work. His work is simply a creation of him. They're innately inseparable. And through all the translations, all the statements about, well, I'd like to honor the story, but really I think this should be about me.
To do it with a seriousness and with an appreciation of the original text, but it has to be your own interpretation.
Even if you do think you should do that, I don't think that's what's happening in this movie. And so when you get to statements about, oh, well, we're using modern English dialogue, and everyone should be speaking in American accents. And don't you know, this really isn't that important a story anyway, because, you know, it's old, and I kind of think that people treat history with sort of a regard it doesn't deserve.
The language as well is very modern.
So there's a lot of cultural prejudice. There's a lot of, they're sort of elevating it because it's old, whatever it is.
That actually, he wants to make an adaptation accessible. It means for stupid people, by the way. It means dumb it down.
Yeah, that's exactly what that means.
It means to ruin it and make it for the lowest common denominator. Well, I don't know if you've seen modernity, but the lowest common denominator is through the floor. Part of the point of tradition in classic works is to protect you from those people. Inclusivity means having no standards, because it means you're not excluding anyone for any reason.
If anything, they're excluding white people.
Everything which is valuable is exclusive. It's where you set a bar and you demand people reach it. It actually makes them better people, because they have to try. Whereas now, no, it's accessible. It's like this review from Maggie Phillips, where she says the changes to the adaptation are civilizationally important, particularly when a lot of people evidently no longer read. I don't think we should be making any civilizational changes for people that can't read. I don't think they should be considered at all. I think you should be making things for the peak of society, and so that you make the best thing that you can possibly make, and then everyone else appreciates it on their own lower level. The Odyssey by Homer. Is Athena whack?
Oh my gosh. It's difficult to decide who is the peak of society, because of course our societal system are unjust. In fact, that's the main problem, and it's difficult to choose then who is the true peak of society. I mean, think about it. Son of the woodworker, and then he was king of kings. He wasn't born as like the son of an emperor. But then again, is Athena whack?
Why is Poseidon so salty? Odysseus is the goat. Did Circe have riz? Were the Cyclops blind or just dumb? Penelope, loyal or simp? These kind of changes, these alterations, are all there to affect the work because they didn't like the work. Because they actually despise what's happening. That's why they think it needs to be changed. The same thing happened.
That's what Emily Wilson said. She said, why do you have to have this white hero who's actually objectifying his wife?
With Wheel of Time in Amazon, because they didn't think it was feminist enough. It's a bit like now when Penelope is like, no, actually, I think I'm Odysseus' equal. In fact, no, because I'm equal, I'm basically a man at that point, aren't I? I should have been on the adventures with him.
And I thought about being your equal, what that would mean.
Quite literally.
She's not even sitting here because she loves weaving. She would much rather be on a ship.
These are all modern interpretations and modern values, because basically they looked at a piece that was from 2,800 years ago and they didn't like it because it wasn't their morality. It disagrees with them. And
do remember the looked at does not equal read. These people haven't even read it. And they are the ones, by the way, who tell you, oh, you don't like Nolan's Odyssey and you haven't even read the Odyssey. You motherfucker, I grew up with it 3 different times. I read Odyssey, Iliad, and Aeneid. 3 times. 2 times I read it, 1 time my mum read it to me. That's what happens when you're brought up in the Mediterranean basin. Whether it be Greece, whether it be Sicily, Italy in general, this is how it works for us. We didn't just read it, we grew up with these words.
They can't zoom out enough. They can't actually judge something from an objective perspective, only from theirs. The exact thing which Nolan was accusing everyone else of.
A lot of the way people look at the ancient world or the classical world in movies and in culture is to sort of project their own fantasies onto it. And
is what he did. Because it's his inability to do it. Because it's his deficiency. And all of this seems to come from the Emily Wilson translation. The thing which was designed to be open to students so it could go into universities, and then everyone would be taught on that. That would become the new foundational touchstone. That's what this one seems to be. Updated for a modern audience, so we can show it to kids. So we can get a story that was made at a time with different morals.
To brainwash the kids.
And now put our own modern morals onto it. And you'll be able to.
Calling them morals, it's like really pulling up all the extra weights. It's insane above its weight class.
To tell how this is happening, The Suitors is actually a great moral test of humanity. Do you actually change what happened with the housemaids and them interacting with the suitors? Because how you see that interaction and whether you think that needs to be changed, many want to put modern standards on it. Oh, they did absolutely nothing wrong. Yeah, they may have traitorous skanks, but they're free to be. Or worse, you say they didn't have any choice, which is wrong. That is you ruining a millennia-old text because you think you know better. And it's not even a widely held moral standard today. This is why movies have been flopping for years, because they put that moral standard into the movie. Now, they may make an exception for Nolan to go and see his movie, but it doesn't mean it doesn't contain all the other crap which has been ruining Marvel and everything else. It just means that this is a one-off movie, and therefore people haven't had time to build up a trend yet. But I think for clips of this to actually show all the different people saying the same things, it'd probably require a separate video. But you can see the obvious double standard either way.
Oh yeah, the double standard is the thing that annoys me the most, in fact, of all this insanity, depravity, and debauchery. That's what it is. It's always double standards, rule for me, not for thee, thou.
It comes to the small places, the places which doesn't have any influence on Western culture. They look at them like children, need to be respected and adapted and talking to and cared for. But the moment it comes to something important, something foundational, something with actually a touchstone of civilization, immediately it needs to be degraded and destroyed.
Yes,
we've got to give it to everybody to pretend that they have anything to do with it at all, to give them a sense of ownership, to make them feel like they're ever a part of it. Everybody at that point all wants to get their grubby mitts on it, to try and make it theirs. Because we've got to pretend that somehow everyone throughout all of history has been equal. That they all had equal hand in creating civilization itself. And it's simply not true. We can track
particularly ours.
The creation of modern Western society. And I don't think we need to allow stolen valor from people who weren't there just because they want to go off into the future to pretend to future generations that...
Or to replace the future generations, how about that?
No, guys! I was there at the formation of civilization when he said man dem gonna finna Troy in it. That was when I knew the birthplace of civilization had happened. Equality is evil because it's not true, and therefore requires force, oppression, and degradation.
I don't think it's equality, though. It's not true equality, it's equity. That's the reality, because I don't have a problem with equality in the sense that you're not trying to equalizing everything regardless of the truth. That's wrong and that would be evil. But if you treat every human being the same, and we don't use these two-tier policing, for instance, and that's a type of equality I love. But what they want is equity. And in order to do equity, you need to level the ground, and then it leads to injustice. That's how it is.
In order to create it. But just because actors are used to lying on camera doesn't mean we have to allow them to lie about history. Well, the people that make it want to degrade it and destroy it. They want it to crumble and be lesser. They want it to be turned into now. But you can look around at society of the last decades. You can go and watch TV from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and what you will find is an altogether better group of people. You can do street interviews and just tell that things were better then. People were more civilized. And as long as you have foundational texts which are there to teach you moral messages, they're there to give you the benefit of the experience of living through something without having to go through the dangerous part of it. It is there to tell you that when strangers enter through your door, when they take advantage of it, when they ruin things, then they must be subjected to justice. And
correct.
If any of that gets changed, if what happens to the suitors gets changed, if they're not pitched to be as horrific, if the housemaids are changed from disloyal slags to innocent victims that were just murdered at the heart of a brutal man, that Odysseus is a hero who struggled to get home. Instead, he's a horrific, violent person destroyed by the horrors of war.
Or even worse, a complicated man.
Can no longer make legitimate, just moral decisions. Then it's more than just changing the name of a story. They are trying to change the moral messaging of it.
Yes.
They're trying to change what they teach you from the story.
And then give it to the children.
What you learn from the experience. And that's something worth being a culture warrior for. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down.
Loved it. Thank you very much, brother. Loved it. Very good. Excellent work. Check him out. Thanks for watching. Nolan, you muppet. Nolan! If you appreciate my content so far and wish to help ensure my ability to continue to tell it how it is, regardless of any possible backlash, please support this channel on Patreon. Any support helps me and my team of academics keep the channel strong and gives us the means to fight back against the political rewriting of history. Stand with us, form the wall, defend the truth.